absolute turmoil between the two of us, you know, and I was scared of him because he was a big guy, you know. And so eventually I got to a place where I just had to be quiet. I ended up moving back away from my father, and when I moved away is when a lot of things started coming to light. I started figuring out that my dad was heavily into drugs. He was into intravenous drugs. He was taking meth, all these different crazy things. So my father got lost in that, man, just totally lost in it. And when I left Texas to go to North Carolina again, I was like 18, and I was done with him. I had become a lot like him because I had to be that way to kind of deal with him. Meaning, I became the person who was not scared of anybody except my father. I became the person who would dare you to fight me. I became the person who would find somebody who was picking on everybody else and call them outside and step out. And that's how I got scars in my face today, you know, things like that. I eventually got to a place where my pride and my arrogance got me in the hospital. I was playing a basketball game, passed the ball down the court, turned around, lights went out, woke up in an ambulance, my face shattered. And I spent 6 weeks with my face broken and messed up. They had to let everything heal, and then they took me back in and re-broke everything and put it all back together. And that was the moment where I realized that my life had become about me and less about God and all that stuff. And the doctor said, "You're lucky to be alive. You could have died instantly. By the grace of God, you're still here. If I were you, I would do something with my life, you know, spectacular to honor that." You know, I was like, well, what do I do now, you know? And that's when music became the whole forefront of my life. What's amazing is that God used my music, which I started writing about my dad. If you listen to our first records, you can hear a lot of father stuff in those records. He used those songs, me crying out to God, going, "God, I don't understand why my dad has to be this way. I don't get it. It's not fair. Why can't I have a dad who just loves me and who's there for me and who, you know," and God used those songs to take my father's life and twist it upside down. He started calling me and going, "Son, it just sounds like you're talking about me. You know, are you talking about me?" And at first I didn't know how to deal with that. You know, I was like, "Oh, no, man, I love you. You know, it's all good." And then over time, I got to the point where I finally had to just sit down with him and go, "Dad, look, you crushed me." You know, it took everything inside of me to still be able to stand up square as a man and face off with life in general. And I think that really, for me, what happened in my life that allowed me to get to the place where my father and I can see eye to eye now is that I accepted my father for who he was, not for what I wished he would be. And I think that when I kind of readjusted my life and recognized that I couldn't put my dad on this massive pedestal, I had to put God there. When I got God as my deliverer, God as my healer, God as my refuge, and I took Dad down off of that, and I went, "Dad is my earthly father. I love him, and I'll do anything for him. But, you know, he's not my deliverer. He will never be that. Doesn't matter how hard. There's no way he can ever become that in my life, you know?" And I think that when I got there and when I got to the place where I finally said, "Okay, my dad is what he is," for the first time in my life, I was actually able to breathe. The first time in my life, I was actually able to let go of all the hurt and the anger. And today, you know, in 2 days, I'll be in my hometown hanging out with my father and talking about his grandkids, my son, my daughter, and just loving him through life. I mean, my dad loves Jesus, you know. He's got a lot of mistakes, a lot of heartbreak. He's had a lot of opportunities that he's missed. Good news is that I'm not going to miss those opportunities. I've got a 7-year-old boy that I'm going to love. Not going to be the same man my father was. And there's hope because of that. I was still